Hi and welcome, and thank you for joining us for another Authenticity Amplified series chat. Today, we're going to be talking about anti-cringe networking. In other words, how the hell do we build some connection without feeling so icky about the whole process? So, if you're joining us today, I wonder what about this actually resonate with you. So, if you don't mind just dropping a comment into the event chat and just like let us know like what brought you in here today. And as we settle in and as more folks join us, I just like to start off with the two agreements I usually like to hold in this space. I created these talks as a way for us just to like dig in deeper into the nuance of topics that or words even we say a lot like networking, connection, community, etc. And like I was just talking to Patty before we jumped on that we use a lot of these words as like shorthands, but what do we actually mean by that? What does it look like? What does it feel like on a regular basis? And if we can break that down a bit more, and today we'll do that with networking, would that make it feel easier for us to build that connection authentically with each other? So as we talk through the topic, like I welcome you all to like stay curious, right? Patty and I are just two of possibly many perspectives on networking. I'm pretty sure we're two of many, many, many perspectives on networking as well. And there's no one right or wrong way to see it. That's not what we're proposing here today. And just to stay open because often trying to create some change in our life, even like how we network, will not happen overnight, right? So we're giving you seeds to take into your day so that they can grow into different plans and different strengths and different mindsets that hopefully will make that process feel a little easier for you if that's what you want to continue to do. So with me today is a lovely Patty. So Patty, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. And thanks, Betty. I'm super excited for this conversation. I'm Patty Dayleg, and I'm a leadership coach. I'm a consultant. I work with nonprofits, with small business owners, with coalitions to build capacity and to build cultures that are rooted in collective power, in care for each other. I'm
Mhm.
also a daughter of Filipino immigrants. And before I was in my business full time, I was doing DEI work across government, across nonprofits, and through the arts. And I'm also a podcast host. I host a podcast
Yes.
called What We Made Possible, which is all about the connection between healing and leadership and our ability to make an impact on systems. And as it relates to networking, I'm kind of that person that I just like know people. So whenever
Well
someone,
said.
yeah, like we, one of the ways that Betty and I know each other is in a mastermind. And whenever somebody is looking for some kind of resource or a person who does a sort of thing, I'm always like, oh, I know someone who does that. So I would say that that is definitely a skill that I bring into the networking game.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Betty.
Definitely. Really glad to have you here because ever since I've met you, Patty, I've always admired how you cultivate the relationships around you. And when you said earlier, like collective power, like that does feel so true to how I feel when I'm around you as a person and as the brand that you're building as well. And it's something I'm learning over time. Like, so a little about me, I'm an only child, right? I'm only child of Chinese Burmese immigrants. And the thing with us only children is that we like to go at it alone. And that's not actually sustainable in the long run. So it is a skill set. It is a life skill as well as a business skill as well as a professional skill to be able to like find that community, and networking is one of the ways we do that with each other. So really appreciate having you join us and share your insights. For those who have never been here in these talks, these are very conversational. Like this is not going to be interview style. Patty and I will just be like digging into the questions that come up for us, and hopefully these are also same questions that might be ping-ponging in your mind, and we can talk about that out loud together. So before we dive in further, a quick introduction from me. My name is Betty Chan. I am an authenticity life coach, facilitator, and a speaker. I work primarily with folks who I call code switchers. So these are folks who feel like they have multiple parts of themselves that, if you're a Harry Potter fan, had to horcrux into different areas of your life. How do we bring that all back together into integration so you don't feel like you have to be pieces of yourself, but you get to show up fully? And in the context of networking, it's like, how do we do that where you don't have to feel like you're too much when you're in a room, or you're too quiet and therefore you're that's not going to set you up for good communication and good contacts as well. So how do we build in those parts of us that feel quirky, that feel like contradictions, that feel like things that don't really belong in a quote unquote networking room? And how do we actually make that into the thing we feel proud of? And also the thing that could differentiate us and help build those connections that we don't, that might be waiting for you, but you don't expect to find. That's right in front of you as well. So, as we mentioned, today is about anti-cringe networking. And what got us here today is, like, Patty and I, like we said, we were just catching up on how business is going and how there are just some necessary things we need to do as entrepreneurs, as coaches. And some of it is like unlearning the standard ways of marketing. And one of those ways are just like, networking doesn't have to be transactional. Networking doesn't have to be cringe. Networking doesn't have to be like, well, if I don't have something to give you, therefore I can't talk to you kind of thing. And generally, it's just like, okay, why does networking feel so ick? Why does it feel so gross or weird sometimes? Like, because I do think most of us share in that feeling. So yeah, I guess I'll just pose that question for you and we'll dive into the chat, Patty. Like, what about networking feels odd or weird or gross or ick for you?
I think it's about like what are we going into that interaction intending to walk away with, right? Like if
Mm.
you're going to a networking event and you're like, I'm going to find a job, then the stakes are pretty high. And like you feel like you're trying to get something out of somebody. I
Yeah.
feel like that is when it becomes like really gross, is when you feel like you're supposed to have some ulterior
Mhm.
motive.
Mhm.
Um but
Yeah.
really it's just showing up with a group of people. It's so interesting, Betty, you talked about, being an only child and how that means that you had to kind of show up and do things all yourself.
Mhm.
And I'm a first daughter, and that is absolutely true for me. And also, I also know that like when my family moved here to the US, we moved to places where we knew folks. Um,
Mhm.
I had I was born in San Francisco, but we came to the East Coast after that big earthquake in '89,
Mhm.
and we immediately stayed with my grandmother's best friend from high school.
Wow. Yeah.
And we stay close to her, and we've always lived close to our community, like our people, our network. Um,
Mhm.
and I think about how that impacts how I show up to networking.
Mhm.
Um, in the moments where it has felt like really gross and weird is when I am seeing when I'm not seeing the humans in the room. I'm only seeing like the thing that I want from them.
Yes. It's like they have a little, like, SIM card above them, job opportunity or,
Yeah,
like,
little
business
dollar
connection.
signs.
Yeah, it's like, "How many dollars can you give me?" That's true. Oh, wow. I love that, like, that's been part of your lineage for a while, and I think I never actually reflected on this until right now when you brought it up. I was like, yeah, when my parents came here from Myanmar and Hong Kong, like, they actually were pretty isolated on the East Coast. Like, they didn't have a big I don't remember seeing a big Burmese community growing up. I mean, New York has the loveliness of, like, it just has a lot of Asian communities built in, but it's not quite that 1 degree difference like you mentioned. It's like grandma's friend that we grew up with. A lot of those 1 degree people were further away. So, yeah, a question that I'll probably be sitting with for a bit is like, how much is like of the net, like how, where do you see like healthy networking, healthy community building modeled for you before you even were thinking about that? And how does that show up in your life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious where that when and where it's felt weird or gross for you.
Yeah. I would say the first like clear memory of it is during business school because they did teach it as like, it felt more like posturing. I think the school meant well. It was helping us like how do you come off professional? How do you present yourself? Make sure you have your talking points, make sure you dress with like a press collar, make sure you have your set of business cards ready to hand out. I chronically forgot I still do forget my business cards. So I'm just like, you can find me at this email.
Yeah, I don't even have business cards.
Yeah, I was like, I don't really find that need, but it's just like there's like a checklist of
Mm,
steps that you have to show up with to present as like the best version of yourself, right? And then that's the way people will then be open to the dollar signs or the job connection. So it was very much like they were teaching us to see the transactional moments and the potential of the transactional moments, which I appreciate to some degree, but I do wish there was a balance. I think even back then, I could hear younger college me complaining, like, well, why can't we just get to know people as people first? Before we talk about business. It's always like efficiency of time, like, make sure you have your sell, make sure you have your ask ready. And it just felt gross to me because I'm like, I can't get to know you as a person within, I mean, some people I can, but most people I come across, I can't get to know you in an hour, right? Especially if you are posturing and I'm posturing. Like we're not actually seeing the real parts of each other. And if that's the case, for me, it just feels risky. It's like, am I really going to get in bed, so to speak, with someone and like do this business venture or take on this job or this role when I don't know what you care about? I don't know what makes you tick. So there was just always this uh, like it literally like I'm shaking my shoulders and like it feels like a constraint that I had to wear whenever I was going into those practice sessions or networking events when I was in college.
yeah, it's so interesting that the checklist was all about how you are presenting and
Mhm.
nothing about how you're going to connect with the person in front of you.
Yes. Not at all, not at all. It's like, "Look good, just make sure you
Yeah.
look good." I was like, "Okay, well, yeah." Yeah, there was a lot missing in terms of, like, how do you like and then, right? It's just like, I'm not knocking on being presentable. I think there's something lovely about knowing what you're about and knowing what you wanna put in the forefront of your identity whenever you walk into different rooms, because I don't believe authenticity means being one version of yourself in every single room. It's actually embracing, like, the different parts of you and knowing which one to pull on when you need to. Um, so the things I really like the thing that's helped me kind of shift from, okay, how do we if I don't want that transactional feeling and that transactional mindset, how do we move to something more genuine? So what you said of like all the checklist was just to like show up nice. And for me, it's like, okay, I'd rather think about common ground. And one of my personal values is actually dovetail. It's from my furniture flipping days, where if anyone knows a drawer, like you have two pieces of wood with lots of gaps in it, and then you put them together and they become a strong drawer because of that.
Mm,
So that's something I try to do when I am talking to someone. It's like, oh, where do we complement each other? Where can we really uplift each other in that way? So it feels more like a problem solving mindset or curiosity mindset as opposed to like, okay, am I looking okay? Am I looking okay the whole
mhm.
time? Yeah. How about for you? What's helped you move away? It sounds like you didn't even have to move too far away from transactional because of your upbringing, that the practice came a little more naturally.
I mean, I definitely had moments in my career where I was representing an office, and it was
Mm.
a very transactional thing at first because I just, when I was new in the position, it was just part of my job to be in the room and like make sure that somebody knew who I was representing.
Mm.
And uh, if folks don't know, when you're working at an elected's office and someone represents the office and goes to an event, then the that elected official is supposed to be acknowledged. And so I would have to like find the organizer and kind of introduce myself, say I'm here on behalf of blah blah blah, and then they have to go
Mhm.
and say, oh, blah blah's office is here.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, it's almost like royalty.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how other spaces
Yeah.
do it, but definitely in all of the spaces where and these are like small business communities,
Mhm.
and kind of like small business networks, and so I had to do that. And that in the beginning felt very transactional, especially if I was walking into a
Mm.
space where I didn't know anyone and I literally was just there to represent another person. Um,
Mhm.
the shift into more genuine interactions, and again I'm thinking like, okay, how did I, like, later on in my career at that same office, like how did I show up differently to the same
Mhm.
type of event?
Mhm.
I think again it goes back to intention. Like I went in, yeah, like of course I need to ask someone to acknowledge the office, and thankfully most people kind of knew how to, how that kind of thing works. um but I think I went in with a different intention of, oh, I'm here to learn something, or I'm here to connect with one particular person who I know, or I'm here to
Mhm.
support this organization on behalf of our office. So I
Mm.
think it was like, who am I being as I'm coming into this space? What's my intention?
Yeah.
um that just like helped to show up in a different way.
Mhm.
And I love that idea of the dovetail. Like you're going in to see like what you have in common. And I think too, like understanding before you even walk into the room, what do you have in common? Like what's your interest in
Mm.
this particular space?
Yeah.
And that's a networking event, but we can also talk about one-on-one conversations, informational interviews as networking, right? Like a
Mhm.
coffee chat with someone is also networking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've since, it's helped me kind of bypass some of the self-judging that happens, like that old autopilot, like business school Betty, like, "Okay, run down the checklist now" version. When I think about networking, less about like the event has to have the networking name in it to be networking, right? At the end of the day, like you said, it's about talking to people, it's about relationships, it's about a conversation. Like it's at the end of the day, it's like the asking someone questions, if that feels natural to you, that like taps into the curiosity that you normally bring to the table, that might actually be a much easier way to quote unquote network, as opposed to how do you create a fun time? How do you create a fun space and even invite people in? That's also a form of networking as well. So it's a lot more expansive to think about it as relationships that are in front of you as opposed to networking with a capital N.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm also like imagining student Betty going into these networking conversations with the mask of like who they needed to be.
Yeah.
And what does that mean for the types of folks that we work with, right? That you're like, okay, I'm going into this networking event. I have to like go through this checklist and be presentable, as if like
Mhm.
your own self is not presentable
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
professional, just like as you are.
Yeah.
My favorite people in professional settings are ones who just like break the fourth wall and they're like, we're not doing the farce. Like we're just gonna be I'm gonna curse, or I'm gonna like talk how I talk, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yes. It's like we're not going to perform here today. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And yeah, over time, if like something I didn't learn until much later in adulthood is like when you keep going down that checklist, if you use that as I like to call it like a shield or an armor before you go into any sort of relationship building. I mean, some of a lot of networking applies to like the dating life as well. Like it's not too different on that front. If you're trying to look presentable and that's the dominant intention, I find that most of us don't catch this until a while later. Like, this is actually every time I choose this checklist, as opposed to breaking that fourth wall and just showing up as myself, like, fuck, whatever, this is going to be me today, that we end up quietly saying to yourself, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough as is to be in this conversation. I'm not good enough to be in this room. I'm not good enough to be in this new relationship that's been like budding to form, whether it's for business, whether it's for love, whether it's for friendship, whatever it is. And I think in the long run, that can be quite damaging to how you show up in building connections and making community as well.
Mm, yeah, that's so real because then like whatever you build is not actually genuine, right? And I
Hmm.
imagine that it's super exhausting. Like somebody meets you for the first time and you're one way, then you
Yeah.
does that mean you have to show up that way every single time you connect with them? Like that's a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's very boxed in for sure. Or someone might feel like, okay, you're completely different now. Is the rug being pulled out from under you? I hear a lot of my clients worry about that. Like, oh, if I actually now show up as myself, will everyone around me be like shocked by the version that shows up? But I think often what we all need like a reminder of is like let that side of you that you've been hiding show up a little bit, because you never know if like that song that's been stuck in your head happens to be the same song that's been stuck in the other person's head, and you guys get to relate on a different level, as opposed to like let's expand beyond the transactional conversation and like how else do we overlap as human beings, because whatever the thing that I'm trying to remind myself of is like as a way to move away from transaction to more just genuine connection is, you know what, I want to build something long term. I'm not here to just extract something from you or have you extract something from me and then be like, peace out, I'll talk to you next time. But I want something that keeps building and keeps snowballing into something greater over time. And because of that, we need things to stand on. We need a foundation to stand on. So that commonality that you find with each other that might be surprising, often acts as like really helpful form of foundation for long-term networking and long-term relationship building as well.
Yeah, you got to connect on something.
Mhm. Mhm.
You got to connect on something. I'm I'm curious where do you think this like pressure comes from? Like networking with a capital N is such like a scary like why is that our idea of it?
That's such a good question. Um, I mean, aside from taught, and it's like, I don't know, I credit media a lot for some of the things that just like stick in my brain as quiet truths. And then when I look up, I'm like, where the F did I learn this shit from? It's yeah, a lot of, like, shows and just, like, the big hype up of, like, powerful characters in media even. It's like they show up in a certain assertive masculine way all the time, as opposed to hide your mess, right? Like, don't let people see your flaws, don't let people see your contradictions because they're gonna find you hard to follow. So there's a lot of these narratives that like either movies or in family conversations or in friend conversations that feel like benign or inconsequential advice from like a teacher even, that over time we just absorb like sponges. So if we don't take that moment to like just like take stock of like, okay, these are the things I've been told, this is where I've heard it from, what am I resisting? What am I like, yeah, that feels good for me. Let me continue to do that. It's so easy to just move through any sort of conversation with a Rolodex of people's advices in your mind, like another form of checklist to go through as well. I'm like, this is how I need to show up. This is how I need to show up. That's my guess. How about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I would agree that it's like all these like little bits and pieces of what we take from media and from learning if someone has taught us that.
Mhm.
But it like it's so interesting that like relationships and connecting with people is
Mhm.
such a natural thing. And yet,
Mhm.
like, once we have put the label networking event on it,
Mm.
then like we make it into something that feels pressured.
Yes.
that feels like it's supposed to be transactional, it's supposed to be extractive.
Mhm.
Um,
And you know what?
it's mhm,
I don't even wanna fully villainize that, like, the
mhm,
transaction part, because the thing that's really present to me is, like, nowadays, people do need jobs.
yeah,
People do need connections. People do need, um yeah, like, need opportunities to be able to keep going and doing the things that they love to do. So, I guess something that remember feeling hard, and I hear a lot of my clients too, is like, well, if this is the genuine thing I need a job, and this is where I'm coming from, like, how do I still hold space for that without being overly attached to the outcome? Like, without having the stakes feel like it goes so high the way you described it. And I'm kind of curious, like, have you found anything particularly helpful in your journey?
mm, with like knowing that you have an actual need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm exploring this uh, pivot or like kind of focus in my coaching practice and consulting practice around succession and leadership transitions. And I'm having a lot of conversations with people, right?
Mhm.
I am, and I'm actively seeking those conversations. I'm going to a networking event tomorrow for Filipino business owners here
Mhm.
locally, and I know I'm going in to kind of gather data, right? Like I know
Mm.
I have an ask.
That's intention, gathering data.
That's the
Mhm.
intention. Um, but I think what feels not transactional about it is
Mhm.
that, well, first when I make the ask, right? Like when I reach out to folks for a one-on-one conversation, I say this is the thing that I want to talk to you about,
Mm.
right? So
Okay.
it's there's like a transparency around it.
Yeah, like, you take the guesswork out of it.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
also I I want to like reconnect with them as a person, right?
Yeah.
Like I also want to just understand like what is that impact on them as a human, and also like how's your mom, right?
Mhm.
I think that there's we don't have to be afraid of having an ask, and I don't think we have to be afraid of um even having something to offer, right? As a business owner or and as a person trying to like sell a service, right, around consulting,
Mhm.
like yeah,
Mhm.
I want to offer this to someone who needs it, right? And like the reason why I'm going to uh, an event where a lot of people are going to be there um is because there might be someone who needs that thing.
Mm. Yeah.
But I think we can be, I don't know, like what's the difference, right, between that and it being transactional is it A, the transparency, but B, like it's not the only thing.
Yes. Yeah. I think transaction feels ick to me because it's like all or nothing. Like, it has to be this thing. I have to come in and sign a job or sign an offer, and then, like, or else it's a failure, right? So, I love that, like, and for me, you're reminding me that, like, something I do a lot is, like, when I enter anything hard, and if this is the case, like networking as an example of, like, that hard thing to do, it does help to have a few ways that I will measure for myself. Like, at the end of this, if I have at least one of these 3 things, I will consider it successful situation, a successful interaction. So it's either I gotten to know the person better, I got a question answered, or I felt inspired from the conversation, or I got the opportunity I was really hoping for and keeping my fingers crossed. So sometimes it's actually just being honest with ourselves first. What are those things that we want out of the interaction? Like, what, like you said earlier, like, what inspired us to do that outreach to begin with? What made us even want to do that networking to begin with? Regardless of what you end up calling at the end of the day, conversation or networking, say the phrase that feels kinder for you. Like, that will take a lot of resistance away at the end of the day. And it's not one thing. Like, you're giving that conversation or relationship an opportunity to breathe life into whatever's in front of you.
Mm.
Actually, Patty, we talked about third entity, or the concept of third entity before, right? Like, when two people come together, the space and the conversations and everything between them becomes like its own little person in and of itself. And I think something that I'm realizing now that makes things feel transactional is that it's like a give and take between entity one, me, and entity two, which is you, as opposed to how do we both feed into this third entity together, and like asking that as a question either before, during, or even after you do a networking engagement of like, okay, well, yeah, how do we continue? I guess it goes back to the dovetailing. Like, how do we actually support each other and uplift each other in this way? So it doesn't feel so much of performance. Because sometimes, even when I think about what do I have to offer to this person and go into a networking event thinking of that, it does also start to bring up some performance again. It's like, oh, is my offer good enough? Right? Will people understand what I'm offering? Which doing the clarity work for that will help. Like, if you feel strong about what you have to offer and we're clear about it, that will make the conversation a lot easier. But it still can stir up that performance as opposed to, can we imagine there being a third entity that you're both taking care of? I mean, like, for the people with families, like, if you got a little kid together, it's a lot easier to think about caring for the kid than, like, just each other sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that again, like it goes back to transaction, which is like just I'm taking from you or you're taking from
Mhm.
me,
Mhm.
versus we are kind of like we were talking about plants earlier. Like we have this little plant together and we're watering it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what can we both do to support that
Hmm.
together? And even the
Yeah.
framing, I actually think, if I think back at the times when people reached out to me, right? And I was like, I didn't feel, because I think something I share in common with a lot of my clients is we might stop ourselves from reaching out or starting that networking conversation, because we feel like we're asking for too much, or we're taking up someone's time and we're like a bother to people. Um, Hello, immigrant family dynamics and all that. That's where it comes from oftentimes. But the times when I've had people where the conversations felt really good is that we asked, like, how can we support each other? Like, how can we make this feel good for both people involved? And having that be a transparent conversation also, which was something I wasn't taught actually in business school. It was something that I learned coming into the coaching community, and like hearing that, using that question as a coach, and was like, oh, why don't I bring that outside of my coaching conversations and talk about that just in everyday conversations? Like, how do we support each other? So that's one example that comes to mind of the way we even phrase questions with each other in those conversations that could be helpful. I'm kind of curious for you, like, if people's reached out to you before and if that's felt like a good engagement, like, what were the markers of that?
Mm, I love this question. I'm thinking of like who is a person that might feel like they're asking for too much, and I'm thinking of people who are um like newer in their careers, or they're kind of
Mhm.
like leading for the first time, or they're making a transition, and there's a almost like a power dynamic or like a
Mhm.
differential, right?
Yeah.
And they feel like I don't know, are that feeling of like asking for too much, or feeling like you are asking too much, is one where again you're like trying to control the outcome. Like you're like trying to control the
Mm.
ask in a
Mhm.
way that like they're going to say yes. But the reality is like no matter what you ask, like they might say no anyway,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um
Or they say false yes.
or
Or they're like,
yeah,
"Yeah, right now,"
yes.
and then never happen again.
Totally, right? Like
Mm.
in this like data gathering moment that I'm in for um this thing around succession planning and
Mhm.
leadership transitions, there are people who just haven't responded. And
Mhm.
there's people who have said yes, but then when I'm like, okay, like let's schedule a time to chat, it falls off. Like the conversation just kind of falls off.
Mm.
And that's not because I ask too much. It's because like maybe they just don't have capacity to meet me,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so one like the thing that I want someone um to learn or maybe understand in that situation is you are only in charge of making the ask, you're not in charge of giving the answer.
Mm. I like that. Like being clear on what you can be in charge of, what you are empowered to do, as opposed to the outcomes, which we can't because it relies on more than us. It relies on us and the other person to
Right.
make that possibility happen. Yeah. It's like we're just in charge of the ask. We're just in charge of making it clear what we're about. We're just in charge of, knowing where our strengths lie, knowing how people can tap into us. Because the thing I think in the early days of like being a young professional is like, oh, and I learned this from family of like, don't toot your own horn too much. Like, don't be cocky, don't be arrogant. And I think in that quietly, this belief of like, oh, people will just see my hard work. People will see what I'm about. But the reality is people be busy. They got their own
Yeah.
lives to tend to. It's not that they don't care or don't want to care. Some people are like that, but I genuinely believe most people aren't. It's just because they have a lot of distractions in front of them. So shorthanding that a little bit, simplifying that a little bit for people to help them know how to tap in and how to engage with you, I do think is an act of kindness at the end of the day when it comes to networking, relationship building, or anything along those lines.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
as you're saying that, the other thought that I'm having is that people like to help others. And
Yeah.
like people love to help if it's within their capacity, right? Like
Mhm.
if there's a
Mhm.
job out there and I'm like and I know someone who is good for it, then like I'm passing that along. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I would love to be the person that like connected someone to their next
Yes.
employer.
Mhm.
Um
Mhm.
and I know I'm not alone in that, right? There's a
Yeah.
little bit of
I
ego
think
in that too.
we forget that people do want to do that, and it feels good for people to get to do that for each other. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a person on LinkedIn recently say that they were actively looking for jobs and they attached their resume like on
Mhm.
LinkedIn as a image or a PDF, whatever.
Okay. I was like, "Wait,
And
LinkedIn is a resume."
I know, but like they put a post up and they were like,
Okay.
"Hey community, I need
Mhm.
help."
Uh-huh.
And there were so many comments and so
Wow.
many likes to be like, "Oh, you should talk to this person," and, "Oh, you should talk to this person." Um,
Mhm.
I felt it I know that, like, LinkedIn is a resume, like, if you went to that person's profile, you would see, for most people, like, the same
Yes.
thing, right?
Yeah.
But to, like, actively make that ask, I was like, "Ooh,
Mhm.
that's brave." I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And, like, the volume of response is such a testament to, no, you're not always gonna get crickets. I'm not saying that's not a possibility, but I think that's the what most of us assume is gonna happen 90% of the time.
Mhm.
Maybe it's more 50-50. It's like someone out there is eager to help and can help, and it's a matter of helping them know that you're in that moment of need, and it's okay to be in a moment of need, especially in today's times. Like, it's not a testament of you, whether you're doing enough, whether you're good enough. Like, it's just been a tough job market this year. It's been a tough client market for entrepreneurs and businesses this year as well. So I think rather than waiting for the next, I don't know my financial terms, upwind situation of the market, it's like, how do we lean back on what we do know, like cultivate those relationships of people who know what we're about, and how do we ask for support that way?
Mm. Yeah. I I wanna acknowledge that sometimes you go into, a conversation or a like networking situation where you're not super clear on what you want,
All the
right?
time.
Yeah. You're just like, "Oh, this kind of looks cool. with
Yeah.
like interesting people to connect with, but you don't have a clear ask.
Mhm.
What have you done in those situations?
Oh boy. Well, for one, I transparently, I just haven't been in a lot of networking lately because I have had those a lot of those harsh self judgments in my mind. I'm working on it, people. This is actually step one. Is just having a conversation with Patty to get out of my own way on this. But they're like, for example, like I'm signing up for a medicinal and herbal walk in a sanctuary nearby. So
Ooh.
I do actually, my business brain sees that as an opportunity for networking. But the main thing I'm going in, like, even though I'm not saying, like, will you like to collaborate on my journals? Do you know anyone who needs one on one authenticity coaching? Do you know if you need a speaker? I mostly am actually going in to learn, right? To create that first plank of common ground because I have a love for plants and learning like the actual uses of plants as well. And I find that the people I actually want to work with are more likely to want a similar thing or want to geek out about the similar thing. So people who value nature, people who value the seasons, like that just already is going to make the conversation a lot easier. Long way of answering your question is part of it is just staying open, like literally leaving space for to be surprised. Like I'm going in to be like, you know what? I'm just going in like a little kid and just let myself be surprised by where the conversation's gonna go, but also stay committed that if there is a natural overlap that comes up, that I will be brave, that I will talk about my business, I will talk about my offers, as opposed to just doing all the listening and assuming that like, oh well, if they like me enough, they'll Google me later and then they'll read my website. Like that's a lot of work for someone who don't know you. So, like, how do I kind of help them make that connection to the conversation we're having in the moment as well?
Yeah. You talked about your parts, right? And like your authenticity not
Hmm.
necessarily having to be the same person all the
Yeah.
time, but like welcoming in different parts at different moments. And I think what I hear you saying is like, okay, you're going to this class,
Hmm.
um, and that part, that business part, is not leading. But if she's part of the conversation, then like she's welcome to be part
Yeah.
of it and
Yeah.
not like shutting her out of the conversation just because it's like not that moment
Yeah, it's
to
not the space
speak.
for it.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's very much so. How about for you? Have you found, like, moments where you go in and you're like, "I actually don't know what exactly I need in the moment?"
Yeah. I I go in with like what who do I want to be in this space?
Mm,
Um and see what happens. I went to a there was a it wasn't specifically a networking event, but it was like a community kind of gathering.
mhm,
And I knew that there were going to be a lot of business owners there. So in my, same like my brain was like, okay, this is
mhm.
still a networking opportunity.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, I'm just gonna go in and be kind. I'm going to be open.
Mm,
I'm going to share generously about like what I do. I'm going to hype my friend up who's also there.
mm,
Um and I'm going to be curious about like who's in the room. Um and that led to an invitation to another event. It led to some of those folks um, sharing with me a little bit about their kind of like leadership transition horror stories. It led to a lot of like really like
like good conversations.
yeah, some really good conversations. And but again, that was so much more about like, okay, I'm not clear about what I want necessarily. Like I'm
Mhm,
not attached to the outcome, but
mhm,
I do want to be clear about like who I'm being in the space and what I'm open to receiving.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
And then
Yeah,
I, also being detached and being like, okay, well if none of that happens, then like cool, I had some coffee.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you were brave for a day. You went out and you got some actual human connection, like, those are still a win. back to what we said earlier of like, keep yourself open to the different versions of outcomes because
Mhm.
yeah, networking, I think maybe the key thing where I wanna have folks listening to take away is, like, networking is not reserved to rooms with the word networking on the door, right? Like, it can happen literally anywhere. It can happen I think recently I shared with Patty, like, it can happen in a grocery store when you need to buy potato chips at Trader Joe's, right? So, it's alright, you can share on the and a helpful way is just, like, keep yourself open to where you can find shared love of things together, like whether that's plants, whether that's working out, whether that is being like entrepreneurs as well, or even just in what you struggle with. I think that's what I mean by being transparent of like, you know what, I've been looking for an opportunity for a while. I've been looking for a job for a while, you know, and so it has been tough. And just start there because the other person's probably going to respond back to you like, yo, I feel you. Like it has been really tough. And then
Yeah.
that will lead to a more genuine conversation and ideas that come from there too.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it really can happen anywhere, anytime. This I went to the beach last week with a friend, and we met someone who was at the beach by themselves. And my friend happens to be a hairstylist. She's my hairstylist. Uh, we started off. She did my hair, and we're now friends as well. Um, and she just sent me a picture last night. She did their hair.
Ah, I love
Like,
that.
it really can happen at any
Yes.
moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, for the service providers who are listening, I would say I'm definitely the type of buyer that like I will buy from you because I like you as a person. And I bet
Yep.
you there's a lot of people who buy that way out there too. Like before they even think about your service, they think about you as a person. So I loved your question earlier, Patty, of like, who am I being in this room today? Who do I want? What do I want to lead with? What do I want people to walk away and remember about me? And I don't mean in terms of like job titles and things, but like what is that feeling that they're going to carry with them after they stop talking to you? And if that's where you ground yourself and how you show up and let that lead your presence in the room, that could be a huge game changer.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know we're almost at time, but I'd love to usually like wrap up these talks because I know it's you come in, we open up a lot of different questions and concepts as well. But I also want to leave folks with one or two practical things that they can like just start practicing tomorrow, right? Because these can be really tough hurdles for some of us, but it doesn't mean you can't start creating that change with one small action or one small thought that you can hang on to. So, Patty, I would say like for our listeners, is there like one small low key, low stake way for folks to practice, like something to say to themselves or something to do when it comes to networking, if especially if they have something this week?
Yeah. If you have something this week, before you walk into the door, I want to invite you to ask, what qualities do I want to bring in? Like, who do I want to be? And just
Hmm.
see what answer comes to you, and then act from that place.
Yeah, yeah, I
What
love
about you,
that.
Betty? Thank you.
I I love that yes to that. Double down to what Patty said. I am someone who often can get distracted on what's on my mind, and I could worry about that in terms of how that affects how I show up. But I always find that conversations become easier when I let that lead. So actually just checking with yourself and being present of like, what is taking up most of my mind space right now? And is there a way is it helpful to bring that into the conversation? So it's not always like a positive thing. So if you wanted to be positive, you can. So like when it's like, what's that thing that's been exciting you all week? Right. Because inevitably when you start the conversation, the person's going to ask, how are you doing? And you can already show off some of your personality, show off some of your interests and what your authenticity and what makes you distinct as a person right away but just like, oh yeah, I went to this medicinal plant event recently. I'm really excited about going to the medicinal plant event next week. And sometimes I would say, depending on the space, it's okay to bring that real talk too. Like what I mentioned earlier, especially for the entrepreneurs on this line, is like, yo, shit's been hard this quarter. I don't know what's going sideways, but something's going sideways. It's like that's been on my mind. And just, put that out there and see how the other person responds. And if the other person doesn't respond the way you like, consider it a gift because now you already know that that might not be the type of relationship that you would build something on in the long run, anyways. So they're telling you about who they are up front. So I would say listen to that as well.
I love that. It's like just
Mm-hmm.
what's present for you. Like you don't got to make anything up. Just what's
Mm-mm.
present for
Yeah.
you. Like, is it hard? Like, do you have
Yeah.
K-pop Demon Hunter stuck in your head?
Oh, I do.
I haven't seen it. That's why I'm
You
asking.
need
I'm
to
like,
watch it.
I know. Um,
See, you guys see how fast that happened?
yeah, the energy of it, and then you just
Yeah.
find things. You just find things.
Yeah.
Um, I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Just like what's present for you, and
Mhm.
allowing that to be what you lead with
Mhm.
versus like I'm going to network now.
Mhm. Mhm. Let me button up my shirt and look good.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I would say, I guess we could, unless there's any questions on your end, Patty, maybe we could wrap up for today.
That feels complete.
Yeah, it feels complete. Of course, if for folks listening, if there are any questions, like please do drop it into the comments. It is not a bother to us. Patty and I love being able to support people and help them connect to either the mindset or even just the opportunity that they're looking for. So we're here to help. Patty, where's the best place folks can find you and connect with you if they want to stay in touch?
Ooh, that's a good question. If you want to hear more from me, like auditorily, you can listen to my podcast. It's called What We Made Possible. And you can also join my email list. I send emails every week. And you can join on my website at malayasolutions.com.
Yes. And Patty actually just did a website refresh recently. I'm going to shout you out on that
I
with some
sure did.
amazing, amazing information on her website. So definitely check it out there. And for folks who are looking for a little home or a little corner of your space to think about authenticity and like what does that mean for you, either as an individual or a team or business owner, like I'd love to connect. We don't actually have to work with each other. I'd like to get to know you as a person first. And you can definitely reach out at heybettychan.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn and YouTube and Instagram as well. So I'll drop all the handles and everything into the comments later on. And actually, if you want to hang out with me, something I'm trying to do a little better on, and this is me being transparent, is my newsletter. I just started a newsletter this year. I've been slowly building up my muscle on sharing things on there, and I've enjoyed it so far because I can get a lot more raw and a lot more in depth there than I do on my Instagram and LinkedIn as well. So if you like storytelling in that way, like one thing I'm going to do that I'm springing on Patty right now is that I'm going to go back to this talk and like just pull out some of like bullet list style, some of the insights that we have. So you have a little ideas list for yourself for your next networking event, what to do to ground yourself before, how to move through it while you're in it, and how to like reflect on it too. So you can grow in this skill if this is something you want to grow in afterwards. So if that sounds like a resource that's helpful to you, hop onto my newsletter. You can find it on my website. And that will hopefully hit your inbox soon if yours truly will get on it. I will get to it.
Sure, get to it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I really appreciate you having this conversation with me today, Patty. And I hope the folks joining us got at least one gem out of it, just one to keep you moving forward. And yeah, stay tuned. We'll be having more of these in the near future. All right.
Thanks, Betty. Thanks,
Yes. Bye,
everyone.
everyone.